Okay, so for this one, you get to look at my icon again. I want to have it up just for the intro to this. I got a comment from Gray Matter on Discord asking if that was me or what, because he thought it was a Warhammer picture or something. No, this is actually me. At the start of COVID, I put on a trash bag, or no, sorry, I put on a gray hoodie, and then I put on a trash bag and a fucking respirator and a Chinese chest rig and a pair of Ray-Bans, and there may have been a hat. I don't remember. I got my shotgun and my operator gloves on, and I went out to get the mail and killed 3 people that had been infected with the zombie plague, then known as SARS-CoV-19. And you can't prove otherwise. So, no, but seriously though, I took this picture for like a meme for Instagram. First one I just put up didn't have the Terminator eyes added to the glasses, which I dig. And it said something to the effect of I killed 3 people going out to get the mail, fucking COVID, something like that. And this one, I put the Terminator eyes on, and it had a little thing above it that said, I'm not here for the bank's butt paper. Sorry, no, I'm not here for your butt paper. I'm here for the bank's butt paper. Your butt paper is insured by the federal government. Which to me is fucking hilarious because I have blended together heat and calling money toilet paper and the fact that people are now keeping toilet paper in banks because of COVID-19, because of all the fucking toilet paper buying. Like, it was like I just thought it was funny. I don't know if it really is or not, but it strikes me as funny, and I figure there's probably enough sick fucks out there that have my sense of humor and have seen the movie Heat. Okay, so now what this is really about. 2 minutes in, probably lost the whole audience with that, but I figured doing that at the start of the video was probably a good idea because there's enough people that probably want to know about that. I wanted to talk about starvation and shit hits the fan and my experience dieting. I will say here and now that I do not recommend that you do what I do. I do some of the things I do mainly just to prove them to myself that I can do them. And this probably has had negative health consequences. I don't know. Probably not. Honestly, I feel fine. I feel great. But this is what I did. So I was 630 pounds. And my girlfriend had left me. And I just watched my mentor die bleeding to death on a fucking floor because he had an aneurysm at like 30 something. So I was going to diet. I started dieting and I started normal, eating better, trying things, seeing if I noticed any differences, and just started upping the level of shit that I was doing to see when I started losing weight. Well, I started getting pretty, gym ratish in what I was doing and had done it for like 6 months and really didn't see any change at all. And I was watching Joe Rogan. And I was watching the episode with Glenn Villeneuve. It's like 13 something. You can Google that. It's like 1355 or somewhere in there. It's a great episode. He's on what's that show called? Life Below Zero. If you don't know about that, it's about people living in Alaska. And he said something that like broke my brain. And it was, while I was out there, surviving that winter when I was low on food, I was like on the ultimate starvation diet. I always had something to eat, but just never enough. And I had decided roundabout in this same time period that I was going to do the transgender thing and that I needed to lose weight because I would not be 600 pounds and fucking a chick. I'm just not going to do that. I can barely stand myself now. So I decided that the thing that I was going to do was simulate a plane crash. And I did this by throwing away every piece of food in my house. All of it. If it was good and in date and a shelf stable thing or something that I could give away, I gave it away. But most of it that I had was just stuff that needed to be thrown away anyway, or was some like leftover bits of junk food and whatever. Like I did this after I had run out of groceries for the week. And I gave a bunch of the food that was like canned goods and shit to my cousin who was hurting for money at the time, and it helped her out, and it got that shit out of my house. But after that, I didn't put more food back in the house. I went and loaded up on weed vape carts and water. And I spent the entire month of October 2019 getting high as shit, watching Joe Rogan and fucking Rick and Morty and whatever the fuck else. So I wasn't watching Rick and Morty at that point. It would have been American Dad probably. Getting high as balls and not eating and just drinking water. And it's at this moment that I should mention to you that for whatever reason, when I smoke weed, it makes me not hungry. So that helped, but honestly, only to a point. I was starving. Was it 30 or 31 days, whatever it was. I think I ate it 30 days. Like I ate on Halloween night of that October, and I felt great the entire time. I never felt like I was, needing food. Never felt like I was, I wasn't going and swinging a hammer 9 hours a day. Okay. I was taking it kind of easy. I was still going shopping and helping my grandma and doing the things that I had to do, but I wasn't doing anything like forging, and I wasn't running or anything like that. I was existing. And in this month of not eating anything, I lost 40 pounds. And the first thing I had when I had food again was a gigantic breakfast at my grandfather's favorite breakfast spot. The only reason I went there is because it's a hole in the wall joint that's open at 4 a.m. And I ended the fast when I woke up. And I went and ordered $20 worth of breakfast and ate it all. And people will be like, "Oh, well, wouldn't you get refeeding edema and me? Not if you're not a bitch." Maybe this is part of the thing about proving shit to myself and doing things that like mean something to me. But like, if it happens, it happens. You deal with it. I've known people that had refeeding edema out in the middle of the Alaskan bush. Never saw a doctor. Only knew they had about it because they described what had happened to them to a doctor. Perfectly healthy now. And this is the shit that I'd like you to get into your brain is a doctor or anyone in their right mind would tell you that everything that I just told you is fucking insane. How could I do it? I'm some 600-pound piece of shit, right? Like, yes, I could technically go longer than a lot of you without food, but most of you have enough fat on you that you could go that 30 days. No problem. You're built to do it. And when you do it, it puts your body into a state of, I guess, heightened metabolism, ketosis. I don't know. It does something to your body that starts you in the process of burning fat. You don't keep starving to death. You don't go fucking, anorexic or whatever, although that's a conversation for a little bit later in this video. immediately after your 30-day water fast, I started eating anything that I wanted. Uh, that's not true. I started eating as much as what I wanted of certain things that I selected to be in my house. And I basically bought chicken, cheese, steaks, grapes, apples, bananas, and then like a bunch of green vegetables. Like there were Brussels sprouts, green beans, and asparagus or something like that. And various other things. Kind of mix it up or whatever. When I went to the store, I'd buy some different shit. Sometimes I get pork chops. The point is, with that being the only thing to eat in your house now, and you're really not that hungry because of the fast, you know, you meal prep this out and you have little meals throughout the day, right? Like a bodybuilder or whatever. Or even, I would say, eating this kind of food, you could probably just eat whenever you want. Because that's what I did. I would go to the refrigerator and grab a handful of shit that I would want to eat, and I would eat it. And I'd keep doing that until I was full, and then I would leave. I lost 260 pounds over the next year, counting the 40 in that first month. And I wasn't just pigging out on this shit. I would eat until I felt full, and then I'd, go do something else. I'm not saying that the weed did this or whatever, but I do think that the weed is a dramatic component to this because I started smoking weed to do the water fast and I basically never stopped. Um, from what I can see, marijuana has many physical benefits for me. I'm not sure exactly why. And it has negative mental consequences that at this point I have to just deal with until I can figure out something better. I do like Delta 8 is a CBD like product. If you can't get weed, try Delta 8. And again, this is not advice or whatever for anything, but this is what I did. And all during this time, while I was dieting and water fasting and whatever, I was lightly exercising and walking around the block. I'd go walk a mile or two a day, not much. And like this is a key part to any of this or whatever, but anyone who's telling you, "Oh, you need to go exercise," blah blah blah, if you're over 300 pounds, 350 pounds, you should be very, 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 very careful about exercising. And the reason I say that is the people that are like, just go run, fat ass. Yes, those are muscle bound idiots who are going to get you to hurt yourself. If you just go start trying to run off your fat or whatever like them, that's probably not a good idea. You need to ease into that shit. You need to slowly build muscle and build up to the point that you're actually doing stuff. And any level of activity at the kind of weight that I had is going to make you lose weight. So, and this is a video, I guess, mainly for those of you who are really, really fat. Like, you really want to lose weight? You really think you're not a pussy? Okay, this is what I did. And I'm a chick and marrying a dude and a lot of other shit. Like, I think, I don't know. It's one of those things that, like, if I can do this, you can do this. And maybe you do a less extreme version of this. Try a 1 day water fast or a week water fast where you go 30 days. And like my thing was, I had done that. I had fasted, a day, a couple days, 3 days, and was just kind of like, I don't feel like eating. I'm going to eat when I feel like eating again. And as that went on, I was like, okay, let's go for 2 weeks. Okay, let's go for 3 weeks. Okay, fuck it, 30 days. And I couldn't take it anymore after 30 days. Like I said, that was Halloween, the night that or early morning that I went and had that breakfast. I know that because I had a big handful of Halloween candy that night at my grandmother's house. So that's the other thing is like doing this shit. If you are going to diet, you should definitely have a cheat day, and you should definitely still enjoy life. I would eat whatever the fuck I wanted at Christmas and Thanksgiving, and like on Halloween, I had a fucking handful of candy, and like I would pick a day of the week, and it would be a true cheat day for me. And by that I mean I would go out to eat, and I would get whatever the fuck I wanted, probably at least twice that day. My other cheat day of the week, I ate at home all of the meals but one, and I went out and had lunch at a place I like that does flame broiled chicken with vegetables and rice with like some pepper sauces. It's kind of a healthy food, but it costs money and it is out. But it has an Asian flair to it, and I love it. So I made that one day of the week. I did that, and that kind of having some sort of something to look forward to like that like is you know exciting food, I guess, because that's to me is like the food that I like to eat for just fuel is not very exciting, and I think it's a lot of people's problem, to be honest with you. I don't know if there's a real solution to any of this. I'm still working on this myself, but this is what I did to start, and now I've kind of bounced back and forth around a little bit between 370 and 430, and I'm trying to get my shit figured out. And now that I'm on hormones, I started losing weight like crazy, which makes absolutely no sense, but I'm just going to take the win. Um, and this is my thing is if my fucking crazy ass diet made me lose weight when I have such jacked up hormones that female hormones make me actually lose weight, you think about that one. I think this would make you shed weight like a motherfucker. Now, I'm talking about all of this to make a point. And that point is about starvation and shit hits the fan. Congratulations if you've made it through the 17-minute intro. So I had to preface all of what I'm about to say with what you just heard because we're going to be talking about starving to death. And I'm going to tell you that the realities of this are not what most people would tell you. The fact of the matter is, even without the weed, a 1 or 2 day fast is not that big a deal. 3 to 4 days gets rough. And once you get past that hump, it starts getting easier again. And really, after you get past that 3 or 4 day hump without food, and your body switches into whatever that mode is where it's exclusively burning your reserves, you feel great. It's great to exercise like that. Like, just this is my opinion. I'm sure if it feels that good, it must be great for you. That's not always necessarily true, but if it's exercise, probably true. Um, so knowing this about starvation, if you have fat to burn on your body, I would tell you that you are a wise motherfucker to work in extended fasting into your plans. I maybe not 30 days, but definitely a week. I would do like a week with food, a week without food, a week light on food, a week with food, a week without food, like something like that. Stretch your shit out. And this is the thing that learning this ability is going to give you the ability to do. Between having body fat and having the mental fortitude to be able to just sit there and not fucking eat, these are handy skills and capabilities to have. Now, you don't want to have so much fat that you can't fucking do the shit that you need to do. And that's where I'm at. That's where a lot of you are at. And honestly, it looks like the shit hits the fan we're going into might actually be good for us. I've said many times that the fat people were the ones that lived through the famine. That's why America has a weight problem. Because basically, all the people that survived all the fucking famines came here. Think about that one. And then we eat rich, sugary crap all the time. So, you as an American have some inherent superpowers, I think, that you don't even know about. And this shit's one of them. The other thing I'm going to say about starvation is I would not use this technique once you're out of food. Like, I wouldn't bank on being able to go an extra 30 days once you run out of food. I would build these periods in while you have a shit ton of food. That way you have a full, reserve food stash to recover off of. So, like, if you have 2 years worth of food, adding a 30-day fast in, if you can pull it off, it's a good idea. Especially if everybody can do a couple of those over that 2 years. That means you just expanded your entire group by 2 months on food for $0, and you're going to be fitter and healthier, more than likely, as a result at the end of it. Now, if you are skin and fucking bones, don't do this. Again, this is for those of us who are probably a good 100 pounds overweight. You can afford to diet like this. No doctor's going to tell you that because they don't really want you to get better. And here's the thing, is this is not dieting for normal everyday life. This is the world has ended and I don't have food. What is it going to do to me? That's what this conversation is really about. And I did all that diet shit at the beginning mainly as an intro for it. The things that you will notice, you will have a lack of energy. Doing any strenuous labor is going to be taxing. Like, I would anticipate being at 50% speed and strength if you're like this. At least initially. Maybe if you hit that full, like, peak God mode, whatever, like, 20 days in, maybe then you're like full on 100%. And like, I don't know. I really wasn't pushing myself that hard, but I've heard things from other people that make me think that that's probably true. Especially because as good as I felt exercising, I have a feeling that's true. What else to talk about with this? Oh, yes. Protein bars and protein shakes. If you don't have a bunch of those already just for day-to-day life, you should. And you should definitely have them for shit hits the fan because they're awesome. And some of the stuff that I kept in my house to eat during this was, what are those called? It's Robert Irving's Fit Crunch Pro. Those are the protein bars I like. They're kind of like a peanut butter cookie, and they're a whey protein bar, and that's important. I don't know why it's important, but Angry told me it was important. If you really want to know more about that stuff, go ask Angry American. The other thing I would get would be whey protein shake powder, and I would do a shake a day, and I would have as many of those bars as I felt I needed. And I know that's not a very specific amount, but like, I wasn't trying to eat them out of house and home or whatever. I was trying to conserve them ish because I'm a cheap bastard. And basically, if I got hungry and was just wanting something, I'd go have one of those because chances are it's protein. And if it's not, I should be eating protein. And that's a whole different conversation, basically. But if you're not on a relatively low carb, high protein diet, you're probably not going to get very many results. Again, like when I did eat, I was eating cheese and meat and fruits and vegetables and protein bars, and that was pretty much it. Oh, and water. Um, and that's like another key thing here too is if you are going to do this and shit hits the fan, I wouldn't do this unless I had a lot of water. Like we have a resource like a well or a lake or something akin to that. Because the main way that I would fight hunger in a water fast would be to drink more water. It's probably why they call it a water fast. I don't know that for a fact, but it makes sense. Uh, this is where I really wish I had some notes planned for this section of the video because, like, really, my advice to you on starvation and shit hits the fan is don't do it. If you do it, though, it's not the nightmare that everyone paints it to be. You can, in reality, go much longer without food than you would imagine. Most people don't like to. That's putting it mildly. You will notice as that your hunger increases that your ease to anger, your irritability, all of these things, all of the things that you don't like about yourself, these are going to get worse. And you have to fight that shit. But like in reality, if you don't have the food, you don't have the food. Okay. If you're doing this on a, oh, we're going to save some food basis. When I started seeing that shit, I might go eat something. Might. Again, I didn't. But, a lot of people would say I'm a crazy fuck. And the reason I say I might go eat something is because not that, oh, it's going to be bad for you long term or whatever necessarily, but it's more of that the people around you are going to have to suffer through all of this with you. And if they are all also doing this, bad shit could happen. So this is why I would probably stagger this out. Like, this week it's, mom and dad aren't going to eat and the kids are going to eat. And like, you would just organize your shit properly to where they would go and eat or whatever. And there would always be at least a couple people that had food and were like 100% with it. And it's because of this. And it's not like, oh, they're going to hurt themselves or some shit. It's more like, what if an emergency happened and you need clear heads? This is why if you have like a family of 4, mom, dad, 2 kids, I would do a kid and a parent. And then I would rotate. And I would do a kid and a parent for a week, then everybody eating for a week, and then a kid and a parent, the other kid and a parent for a week. I would do that. Try to alternate and shit. I don't know how long you can keep doing that. Like I said, I did one 30-day fast. And then I did intermittent fasting after that, which is basically I just waited till later in the day to eat. There's a little more to it than that, but that's the gist of it. That's not really the same thing. When it comes to these hardcore fasts, these do have an effect on your body. And if you're 600 pounds, there's nothing but good effects, basically. If you're fucking, 100 pounds, I don't know how long you could continue to do this. My guess is you might not even be able to do it once. But there's a definite percentage of the population in the United States and the people watching this that can. And if you can, we are looking at, food crisis and famines and all of that, I would at least play around with some of this, and I would know what your body does when it doesn't have food for more than 8 hours or so, however long it is you usually go without eating. Uh, I'm kind of a psycho, and basically I eat currently I try to start eating at about like 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and I'm done eating by 8 o'clock at night. So like I have a main meal in there somewhere, and then I'll have like shakes and protein bars on either side of that, but that's it. Again, this is what I do to lose weight now, and that's all. A lot of people wouldn't do that. Like maybe like this is it. I don't know how much of this is actually applicable to the everyday person, and I don't know. I honestly, I think that a doctor or a scientist should do a serious book on this from a survival perspective. The subject is fascinating, and I don't know of anyone else that really does research on this sort of stuff. Like my own stuff came about as I was going to die and I needed to not die, and I did the most extreme thing that I could think of, and I kind of figured it would work, and I kind of figured I would learn about this kind of shit along the way, and that was part of my reasoning, to be honest. And this is really the part of the video that like I'm going to tell you, don't listen to me, but the only way to actually know some of this shit is not listening to me for this whole video. It's actually doing this yourself. Like I would start small. I would start at going a day. It's a nice goal. And I would probably do that a few times before I was jumping into anything too crazy. And that's with anything, with survival especially, or wilderness survival in particular is what I meant. But like any kind of survival, is you don't, just jump in and do something. You take baby steps. You go slow. Like, instead of eating 18 pounds of this purple corn we found on this island, we're going to rub some on our skin first. And if it doesn't break out in a rash, well, then we might like break it in half and rub that on our skin and see if that breaks out in a rash. Okay. And like so on and so on until, you're finally like licking the thing and seeing if you die. And then taking a bite of it, seeing if you die. Eventually eating a whole plate of it and seeing if you die. And like this is pretty much how humans got to be where we are. And I'm not saying that you should just, automatically jump to fucking experimenting and shit, but like if you don't test yourself on this stuff, how will you ever fucking know? A. And B, I think in our situation in particular, where we could be facing famine and food shortages and whatever, you should definitely take a week of your life and do a water fast and learn some skills, at least when it comes to gardening and farming. And that's a whole different video than this, really. But even its skills in this fasting thing, like having had done this before, I don't have any hesitation right now about not eating for 30 days. And I think that's the difference between me and a lot of people, is that I know I'll be okay. Whatever, when it comes to that. There's a whole bunch of people that they act like if they don't get their fucking pudding pop, they're gonna die. Well, I hate to tell you folks, everyone in the United States of America could miss the next 2 meals probably and live. This is what kind of kills me about talking to people like one of my uncles. He's a wonderful person, but he's frustrating as fuck on this shit because, like, he is in that mentality where you have to eat every, so often. And every so often for him is, every 3 to 4 hours probably. And, I'm just trying to convince him that, hey, not only could you move that to 8 hours, you could probably take some days off because you're fucking 500 pounds. And a lot of that with him is it's not that I hate fat people or anything like that. It's that I want him to live. And he's aging rapidly. And this is all of you watching this. You're all aging at a faster rate if you're heavier. I don't know if you know that or not. There's a bunch of shit that they aren't telling you about many, many things. And basically all those weirdos that fucking, are super specific about their diet, all those lefties that have to have X, Y, and Z, that's because they want to live to be 100. My cousin, I guess it's second cousin or something. I don't know what the fuck it is. She was 50. She was dropped dead at 50. And she looked like she was 80. She's the same age as my mother. And my mother looks like she could be my older sister. And not that my mother has led like the healthiest life in the world, but like the main difference between the two of them was the amount of time that they went sunbathing, the diet that they ate, and the amount of strenuous activity that they put themselves through. All of this is the stuff that ages you. If you're, slaving away someplace, that's taking years off your life, believe it or not. It's one of those things, like, it's one thing to exercise. It's another thing to be exercised to the point of exhaustion 5 days a week or whatever, every week for years on end. That's causing injuries. That's not building strength or whatever. And like everything here on this channel, when it comes to this sort of shit, is not about fucking being some muscle man, whatever. It's about having a functional level of strength. And it's like, why would you want giant fucking muscles that make it harder for you to do shit in combat if you could have smaller muscles that can do the same amount of work? This is what you want. Like, this is something a lot of people in the bodybuilding world don't understand, because there's like, oh, look at my muscles or whatever. But like, the thing they don't get is that when Arnold went to film Conan, might as well be the other way in my opinion, he had to stop exercising his arms for several months beforehand to get to a point where he could effectively wield a sword. We are not supposed to look like that. Okay, now he was particularly fucking huge at the time, right? But still, some of the strongest people I've known, I would describe as wiry. I always liked them. I wish I was like that. I'm not. I'm just big and lumbering and a freak. Other things regarding starvation and shit hits the fan. You should consider what kinds of food you have and think about what order you're going to eat them in. And this is another health thing. Like, you don't want to, be running out of food when you haven't had anything but rice in a year. If that's going to be what you're going to do, you're going to die. Okay? The only way you're going to live once you run out of food is by being strong enough, fit enough, and whatever to go and take food from other people or to go and hunt or gather food in some way. And all of this means you need to be effective. And if all you're doing is eating, a couple cups of rice a day and a handful of beans, that ain't gonna be you. I hate to tell you that. More than likely, that's not gonna be you after a year plus of some rice. This is why having protein of any kind is important. I like cans of Spam, cans of tuna, cans of salmon, peanut butter, uh, protein bars, peanut butter powder, protein powder. All this shit lasts a really long time. And it's not everything that you need other than the rice or whatever, because you're going to need vegetables and whatever too. But if you pack shit like canned vegetables, canned fruit, and like sauces and beans and all of this shit, along with rice and all of that protein I said, you're going to have kind of a well balanced diet, at least for those supplies. And then the question becomes what to do with all the fuck ton of rice that you have. Because you probably do have rice, right? It's cheap. Everybody bought it. And my thing would be if you're going to do any time on rice at all, I would do it at the very start. Like if you know that you don't have enough food to last forever uh, without eating just rice at some point, I would make your first couple months real rice heavy then. Because then you have that whole the rest of your food storage, like assuming it's a year or two's worth of food, to build back up from that. And this is the thing that I think you should think about with the use of all of your food post shit hits the fan is you should be strategic about it. Like what expires first? Use that. Okay? Use that with as much rice as you can fucking have with it. And like the other thing is that is good about rice is no matter what you're cooking, you could have a pot of rice. And if someone's still hungry, they can have a cup of rice. And that's probably not always realistic, but like if you had enough provisions, I would just do that. I don't think any of us are going to have that many provisions. And beans, I don't have any dried beans, and the main reason is that they take a minute to prepare to use compared to rice or oats or whatever. Like there's other things to have in my opinion. The beans, I would buy the canned beans because I actually like Bush's baked beans. I don't really care for like just pinto beans. So when I went and bought beans, I bought a bunch of cans of Bush's baked beans. And that's the thing with a lot of this like emergency prep food and dieting and whatever is are Bush's baked beans dietetic? Yeah, ish. If you didn't put too much shit in them, maybe. But in shit hits the fan, chances are you're going to be fucking hurting for fucking food. So calorie dense shit is probably better, right? But at the same time, like if you eat nothing but like Spam, like you're gonna just start gaining weight like crazy. Like all of this shit matters to shit hits the fan. That's kind of why I wanted to make this video. Is this is a subject that deserves a fair bit of your attention, especially given the situation that we find ourselves in. And it's been kind of rambly and long as fuck. This is 45 minutes in now. I hope I covered everything I wanted to cover in this. It's a lot of bullshit. If you have any tips or tricks for going longer without food, if you have any food storage tips or anything like that, leave them in the comments section for anyone else who might find this. I'll be curious to see if anyone makes it to the end of this one too. Leave me a comment again if you made it to the end. Thanks for watching.